I'm going to show you how to access the library's webpage from the web. You can go to lasc.edu. This takes you to the college's webpage. You can access the library by clicking on Services and Support and then Library, or you can scroll down the page and click on the Library button. From here, you reach our Welcome page. Many of our resources can be found on this page as well. Like for example, on the left side, we have a menu of options, and on the center of the page, we have additional options. But let's go to the library's home page. I'm going to click on the link that says Library Home from the left side of the screen. From here, you can see a lot of different resources, but we're going to go directly to the database list. On the left side, you're going to see a button that says A to Z List of Library Databases. I'm going to click on that, and this takes me to an alphabetical list of all of the databases that the library subscribes to. On the center of the page is A to Z. If you look towards the right, it shows you the popular databases. Anything new or trials that we're doing is right below that. This is great if your professor assigns a research project and tells you which database to go. You can just find it in this list. Or if your professor tells you just do research on a particular topic, two good places to start with would be Academic Search Complete or Academic OneFile. These two databases cover content on multiple subjects. These are two great multi-subject databases. They cover a little bit of everything for everybody. And they're always good places to start with unless you have a very specific subject and you need something more advanced. So let me show you just the other ways to do that. Right here, the way that we've organized our page is you can bring down this menu that says all subjects. You can bring it down and you can narrow down the databases by a particular subject. So let's just say if I'm doing something on nursing or something health related, I can click on this subject that says health sciences. And if I click on that, my databases change, and then these are specific databases that focus on that topic of health sciences. This is also good for nursing, allied health, these types of topics. Now I'm going to close out of that and go back to all subjects. Now, what if instead of by subject, I want to do it by type? Go towards the center, and here I can say, oh, do I want just ebooks or just magazines or just reference databases or academic and scholarly? And then now I'm going to find all of the databases that are academic and scholarly. So these are different ways that you can browse through our list of databases so that it makes more sense to you. Some of the databases you could tell a lot by the title. Like for example, this one B, you could tell that that one is a database that focuses on biographies. This will have articles that are biographical in nature on important people in the world. Business Insights Global, that also tells you basically this is going to be a business related database. And if you want to know more about what each of the databases cover, you can always look at the description. That way you can make a better selection when it comes to a database. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start with a general database multi-subject. A great one to start with is Academic Search Complete. A lot of libraries in the United States and worldwide have access to this particular database. So what I'm showing you now is going to help you in almost any subject that you do, or when you go to a different college, or when you transfer over to a different university. This is also a great one to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that link. I'm going to be asked to authenticate, but I've already bypassed that section and I'm going right into the database. So here is the search. EBSCOhost is the name of the parent company. EBSCOhost has many, many different databases, and a lot of different libraries subscribe to different types of databases or different titles of these databases. Our library and all of the libraries in the Los Angeles Community College District, we subscribe to many different databases from this company. So many times the professors say, oh, you just use an EBSCO database. So then that's what they mean. They usually mean EBSCO because they want you to use Academic Search Complete or something similar to it. You can always just, check with one of the librarians and tell them your subject, and we can give you a recommendation on a database if you're not sure which way to go. So here's the search box, similar to, of course, Google. And of course, I do not recommend for anybody to just type in a long sentence or type in a whole question, because this database is not going to bring up really good results. It's going to try its best to give you something that it thinks you want, but the best strategy is to remember that strategy from Unit 1, the keywords. You want to combine your keywords here. Okay, so now I am going to add my search terms. I'm going to add violent video games. And let's just see just what we can find. So right now I am just doing a blind search, and it's going to try to find as many resources as it can. So right now this is searching a specific phrase, which is violent video games. And it found 773 items or results. And they're going to be shown right in the center, the column of the page. And I just have to scroll. There's a lot of pages to scroll through. Notice here it's got different pages, and I just have to click on all of those pages to look at the whole list. That is still a lot to sort through. So I'm going to do a few things first. I'm going to go to the left side, and I'm going to click on the box that says full text. So from 773, now I have 408. So by selecting the box that says full text, I am asking the database to just give me results that have the actual article along with it. I'm going to just unbox it, uncheck it, just to show them again. So if I'm searching everything, that means that right now I am searching everything, whether it's full text or not full text. This very first one, it does have full text because I can tell, because I can see the article right here, the link to the article. But then there are some that are like this, right? Oh, and the one below it. These might be really great, but I do not see the link to those. So that means that this particular database does not have the full text. It just has a summary of a great article. These are actually really, really good. Just based on the currency and the title. So if we really like one of these articles, we could either see if we can find it free on the internet. Maybe Google Scholar might have it available for free, or maybe another database might have it for free. But now let's just see what we can find just inside this particular database. So I'm going to go back up, and I'm going to check full text again. So then now I'm back to the 408, and then those great articles are not there because they didn't have the actual text, full text with it. But, there's still plenty of results. Okay, expects of playing violent video games on teenagers' behavior and experience from Malaysia. So this one is probably going to talk about a case study in Malaysia. So of course, kids are kids everywhere they are. So this might be relevant to my project, or again, it may not. Maybe I don't want to know what other case studies have to say in other countries, and I just want to focus maybe the United States. But let's just see. I'm gonna just ignore that one for a little bit. Let's see. Aversive images cause less perceptual interference among violent video game players. All right, so this I'm still not sure what that means, but it sounds good. So here's the title of the article. Here's the different scholars or researchers, scientists, or social scientists who conducted this study. And this is the title, Visual Cognition. This is where this article was published in, and it's got the date, the volume, and all of that is right here. And it's 11 pages long. And then here's the DOI. The DOI is just basically a numerical code that is assigned to a lot of scholarly resources, a lot of scholarly articles. Then here it tells me the subjects assigned to this particular article, and this source is available in two formats, either HTML, that means it's just just like a simple web page, or PDF. I prefer the PDF because when you are working with it, it'll give you the page numbers, and I'll show you the difference between those two in a little bit. Now, there's also a visual cue that tells me what kind of source it is. This one tells me that it's an academic journal, so I know certain things about it already. Another way is I could click on this icon that has that magnifying glass, and a little bubble is going to pop up, and it's going to give me again more information about the subjects and it's going to give me an abstract. The abstract is just like a quick summary of what this article is about. And from there, you could use it to determine if this article is relevant for your project. So, I'll read it, previous research, links between gameplay and aggression, desensitization in the moral domain, that frequent violent video games linked to perceptual processing, something about the brain, emotion-induced blindness task, graphic images, blah, blah, blah. Oh, sounds pretty good to me, right? So this might be a good one. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'm going to show you the difference between these two, either HTML and PDF. So I'm going to click on HTML first. And here's the full article. If it had any nice illustrations, it's not going to be shown. This table here is okay. It'll do. But notice it doesn't actually have any page numbers in it, but it has the full text. So this is great because if I wanted to, I can click here on the listen and it'll read it to me. So sometimes it's helpful, especially English is my second language, and sometimes I mispronounce things. So this is helpful because it might show me how certain words might be pronounced. So that's a really great tool for all kinds of purposes. So that's a great feature and one of the reasons why I like it. Also, I have the translation tool. So sometimes things are easier for me to understand in Spanish. So I could just translate it. And it is a very helpful tool. Now, the one thing that I do not like about it is that it doesn't give me the page numbers. So I'm going to click on the PDF version of the very same article. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and I'm going to show you why I like this better. So ta-da! So there it is. So this is what it looks like when it was published originally in the article. It gives me the title of the article, the volume, the DOI again, the company that published it, again, the title of the article, the authors, and of course, additional where the different authors, where they work, where they're from, which is great to determine authority. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And again, here's the abstract, which is again the summary of the article. So one thing that I want to advise students to not do, because I've seen it many, many times, is that when they want to take a quote from an article, it's just so much easier, right? Of course, to go to the abstract and then just try to quote something from it. The thing is that most professors know that that's what you did. So don't do that, because the reason that we know is because it looks like it's out of context. Whenever you put it, you throw it into your paper. So it's always best to just give it a quick read to determine the relevancy of the article, the information that is presented, to make sure that you're not taking something out of context. This is going to be more important, of course, in English classes or psychology or sociology, and when you graduate and you go on to upper level courses, when you transfer to the CSUs or one of the universities. So I just want you to be aware of that. Now, as you're looking at it, read it, give it a quick glance. What I do, especially because English is my second language again, is I have the dictionary open. Before I used to have a physical dictionary. Now, you can just Google things and that's how I can understand, especially if it's a scientific concept or a technical term that I don't use every day, then I may need to use it to that way I can better understand what is being said. Because many times a lot of these scholarly articles are written at a very technical level, high level language, because this is, of course, an article written by a group of scholars for other scholars. And then, of course, students use it to work on research projects. So as I'm going through it, it is perfectly okay to not know what a lot of these concepts mean, because that's really not the point. It's just so that students become more familiar with these kinds of works. And the more that you read it and the more that you work with these things, the better and the more confident you're going to be. So don't, if you have to look things up like I do, don't feel bad. I've been a librarian for over 20 years and I still have to look stuff up. So let me go through the rest of this article. Now, notice that a lot of these things have parentheses, and then it's got the, the names and the date. So what that means is they're doing something similar to what you would do in a research paper, right? Whether it's English class, psychology, sociology, and you have to write maybe a 10-page paper and you have to incorporate sources from newspapers, magazines, or journals. They're doing the same thing. So these 4 people, well, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, they are working on this essay. And this particular sentence here is actually coming out of another source. And here they are citing their source within the body of their essay. And the way that we know is because they have it in parentheses. So that's Anderson and Dill 2000. So they are quoting for this article that they published in 2018, an article from the year 2000. So that means that some of the sources that they're using might be a little dated. But again, that may or may not be important depending on the context of this article. And you determine that by, as you're reading it, then you could look at the rest of the concepts that they're including. But notice here they're citing another source, but this one's from 2017. So they have a variety of sources from different publication times. This may be a very important work that a lot of other scholars are basing their works on. We don't know yet, so we can continue to see and explore the content in this article. So then from here, I would read the content from the article and see what it has to say about my subject. And if it has some facts or some data that I could use to help support my thesis, or if I'm making a speech to help support the point I'm trying to make, then I could borrow an idea from here. Now, right now, what we are reading is just basic information. So what they've done is they've done their library research and they're incorporating all of their sources, and they're saying what we know so far from other case studies and from other articles. So right now they've done their library research and they're presenting to us what they found in their library research. Then I'm going to scroll down some more. And then here's where we're going to know exactly what it is that they do. What are they contributing to the knowledge of this topic? So then here they're telling us the materials are their method that they used to conduct their own study and who were their participants. So from here we can determine whether this case study is good or not, or relevant or irrelevant, or etc. So here we could read to see, okay, these are the participants. These are, undergraduate students. They participated in a course, and basically who they were, 22 males, 6 female, the ages, basically who they are. But of course, no personal information. It's just information about the group of people that they studied. So then it gives you, okay, what did the participants, how were they recruited for this study? And then what did they do? What was the procedure? The apparatus and material, what tools did they use to study whatever it is that they're going to study, whether it was x-rays in the brain or something. We don't know. I would have to really look at this to see what it is, but it looks like that it is, they use BenQ monitor with a screen resolution, and then they looked at control responses, stimuli, so that maybe this 2092 students were presented with a lot of images, and then maybe they studied how the brain looked when they did it. I don't know. It could be. So what you would do on your end is you would take your time, try to find some articles, read the articles, and then from there you determine if it's something relevant to you. And then here's their results and how the data was prepared. Most of the case studies that you're going to see will have the same layout. There might be certain things that might be slightly different, but most of them are going to look like this. If it's in the general, like different issues that they're studying, psychology, sociology, communication, a scientific paper, those are going to be the same. The ones that might be different would be the ones that are exploring literature or topics in history or maybe topics in business. Those might look a little different. And then, of course, the content and the concepts, they're going to be slightly different. So I'm going to scroll down, and then here's more information. It's got the nice chart. See, this wasn't available in the HTML version. It's got the different figures. And then here's, just when they studied just the males. And then all of the results are here. Then here's a discussion. So after they've done this study and they explored and they examined the results, now they're going to discuss what they found. So here, studies have suggested video games is linked to aggression, pro-violence, And then I could look to see what articles they're actually citing, because they're telling us where they got the information from. And they keep quoting other people. So then this particular study, it looks like they were unable to conclude the causal relationship between violent video games and perceptual desensitization. And that it might disappoint some people who really believe that this is really the case, that violent video games cause people to be desensitized to violence. So it looks like what they're saying is that that's not really the case. So this is part of the academic scholarship, in which you look at different case studies, and some will agree, some will not disagree. So then you have to make the determination. You have to look at many articles. You have to look at their data. Maybe there was a problem in the way that they conducted their study. Then what you could do as a researcher is you could say, although a lot of these case studies do not actually prove that this is the case, this case study had limitations because it only did undergraduate students and so on. So they didn't explore, a different type of group or something. So if I wanted to quote this, then I would know, okay, let's just say that this is what I wanted to quote, but this is just a quick summary. I would try to find maybe an additional, something that talks about some data, or something that has something with more depth instead of just something like this. So let's see if I can find something in here that we could. This one, that people who already have a high tolerance or low sensitivity tend to be drawn to video games. So that might be a good thing that I could post. But then, of course, this is just somebody saying this. This is their interpretation of what their study found. So then I would try, okay, I could probably use this in my, if I was writing a 10-page paper or a speech, I could restate this in my essay. But then I would also try to find where they found their data somewhere in the article in here. Try to find where they're actually pulling that information from. Probably you may just have to refer to their case study and say what the data proved. So if I wanted to get something from here, I would have to look at the page number. So what I see a lot of students do is they want to take the page number from up here, but it's right over here. Because what this says is this is page 9 out of 12 of this PDF document, is not the actual page number of the actual article. For that, you get it right from the inside the PDF. So the page number is right over here, 761. If I am citing this in MLA style, all I would need to do is put in the authors and then the page number. Whether it's a quote or a paraphrase. That's what I would need to do. If I'm doing it in APA style, you would have to put in, the author, the date of the year of publication, and the page number if it's a direct quote. If you're just paraphrasing, you don't have to put the page number down. We are going to talk about more about in-text citation next week, but this is just a quick preview on how you would do that. So let's just say this is what I want. Then I could go back up. And let's just say, oh, here's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got 4 different authors. Within the body of my essay, if it's more than 2 in MLA style, you just list the very first author and the page number. You say the first author et al. But more on that next week. This is just a preview of that. Now, let's just say that this is a great article and I want to use it because I want to say the opposite, that violent video games do not cause teenagers to be angry or to commit crimes or something. So that would support the opposite side. So if I do want the article, what I want to do definitely is use the tools on the right side. Here is the envelope. You click on that tool and you can email this article to yourself. And I suggest for you to email all the articles to yourself. That way you have them in case you need them. For this class, it's not as essential because you're only doing five sources for an annotated bibliography. But for other courses that you have to do an in-depth annotated bibliography and a 10-page paper, email them all, organize them in your inbox or in your Google Drive or OneDrive, and leave them there until after you get the grade for the class, just in case there's ever a question, or they want to know where your source came from, or if there's the issue about plagiarism. You always have that way you can protect yourself and save yourself a lot of time and a lot of drama and a lot of stress, because I tell you that this happens many times every semester. There's always, because we're all students, we all did this, I did this, right, where we have our stuff and we think we have it done, and then something doesn't print properly, or there's always a question, and then the student is trying to find the same grade article, and because we're nervous, because hey, it's the last day of class and now I have to do this and I lost it, right? It's a Murphy's laws, right? One thing, everything that could happen wrong will go wrong, right? So just save yourself the time, right? Because when it's towards the end of the semester and things are very hectic and stressful, just the brain doesn't work as well. So just take care of yourself for the future. So email it to yourself. Type in, your email address. You say Norma at Yahoo, or email, or the actual email that you actually work, the one that you use. Type it in. Then you're gonna put in your subject, video game, little project, whatever thing you want. Now on this side, what I'm going to do is leave this checked for these two options, so that way I could get it in PDF. But instead of it in this weird format, I'm going to select your citation format. I'm going to click down here and I'm going to do either APA, or I could select MLA and make life so much MLA, so much easier for myself. Come on, go. There it goes. Then I'm going to click on send. So in my email, I'm going to get my source, the link to the full text, and I'm going to get the citation, what I would need to put in either my references list or my works cited list in my paper. So for this class, it's just going to go into your annotated bibliography. So basically that format, I'm going to click right here, the little yellow page, and this is going to give me the citation information in different styles or flavors, right? So here's the citation according to APA style. And this one looks like it's correct, because sometimes there's an error usually in it, but this one seems to be correct. When we go over APA style, I will show you some things that the databases normally mess up on. So what you're going to do is just cross-reference what you know to be correct with what the database is telling you. So let me give you an example of something that happened to my husband, and he doesn't like it when I mention it because he was married to a librarian at the time. Before our child was born, I made him finish his degree because I knew that once the child was born, he was not going to do it. So I was pregnant and he was trying to complete his work, and he just copied and pasted the citations from the database. And at that time, this was about 10 years ago, the databases were not as good with the citation information. And the professor took off points for every little thing that was off, every period that was off, every capitalization that may be off, and he ended up getting a D on that paper. So he could have gotten an A had he done the citation right. And I wouldn't do it for him because I thought that he needed to do it himself. But I'm glad that happened, because now I can always share that story with all my students. So let's look at the MLA. Now I'm going to look at MLA, and there you go. They got that right. There's the et al. That seems to be right. This one, they got it right. I think they're getting better, but just know that they're not always 100% correct. Depending on your professor might take off points for every little thing that might be off. While others, they say, hey, as long as you tried, or as long as you got the citation from one of the database tools like this, then it'll be fine. So for my class, yes, I will take it from the database as it's stated in the database, but I am going to show, I will send it back to you and I'll tell you, these were the things that the database got wrong. And but then I won't take off any points on that part of it, as long as it came from the database. But because I will look at all of them, because that's very important. I will make, if I see any errors on your annotated bibliography, I will go to the database to see what they presented. And then if it's the same and the errors that you made is because the database gave it to you that way, I will not take off points. But if for some reason it's not what the database gave and it's just those are your mistakes, I will send it back to you so that you can correct those. So that is my information on pulling up the tools. Now, after you're done with this one, I'm going to close out of that. Then you can go back here to the results list and then spend some time again in the search results and try to find additional database articles that will work for you. Try to use the academic resources because those are scholarly, and I want you to get experience really using a lot of these academic scholarly resources. So this one, superior inhibitory, that I'm not sure, that's a very technical word. Maybe some of our students in psychology or sociology class would have studied that, so they may know what that is. But if you don't know what it is, like I don't know what it is, I'll just look it up and become familiar with it. And there's some additional, these are some really good ones. And this is just in Academic Search Complete. This particular database doesn't specialize on any one particular subject, but it still has a lot of really great resources. So this one, it stresses girls out, etc. So you just look through those again and do the exact same thing that we did before. Look at the title, look at the subjects, pay attention to what, if it's an academic journal or not. Go to the button to get the preview, pop out the preview, read the abstract to help you determine if that is a source that you want to spend time looking at. If it's not, just close out and go to the next one. Because a lot of these articles are going to be 8 pages long, 10 pages, 20 pages long. So just use your time wisely and select something that is relevant, and then just don't waste time looking at something that just from looking at the title and looking at the abstract, if it's not suitable for you, then just go on to the next one. Now, let me just show you how to limit this even further, your results list. You can sort them out. Right now, the default is by relevance. Relevance is determined by the algorithm of this database in which it measures your terms and how often do they appear either on the title or as part of the subject or part of the summary. And of course, and also in the full text. So if it appears in the title or in the subject, it gets weighed more heavily, and then it's going to give you those towards the top because that's their way of determining relevancy. If what you want to do is just look at the dates, you can bring that down and say, I want the date newest to the oldest. So that way, everything that's the newest stuff will pop up to the beginning. And there we go. So then I get some other stuff from April 2020, and this one looks like it's in Spanish. So this one, Spanish speakers can use it. And it doesn't have the HTML version, so we won't be able to translate. But many times this is in Spanish, but the actual text is going to be in English. Let's see if this is an example of that. Oh, no, this one's in Spanish. So for those of us who are, no, there it is. It's in English. It's in English. So see, a lot of those things, it looks like it's in both languages. Or maybe not. Let's see. Let's see if the English is later. No, it looks like the summary may have been translated, but no, the content is in Spanish. So that's not going to help. Now, if you're bilingual or you're a Spanish speaker, you could use it for me because for my class because I understand it, but that's the only other language I know. I don't know any other language, so they may not work for me. And then just know for those of us who speak other languages that if you're going to use something, be sure that you know your audience and you want to use sources in the language of your audience. So maybe for a speech class, you may not want to use information, even though it might be valuable in other languages. unless you can find it maybe a translator, maybe just run it through Google Translate or something. If it's got something so valuable that you think it'll really make do, but if not, just try to stick with English. Now let's see. Okay, that's the advice that I have for that aspect on it. Now I want to look at additional things on the left side. If all we want to do is just look at scholarly peer reviewed, it's all just a checkbox away. So then that means that from the 400 and something, now it brings it down to 151. And they are all going to be scholarly peer reviewed. And then now we know that everything that we have here has gone through a review process, like we covered in Unit 2 when we talked about the peer reviewed versus non-peer reviewed, right? Peer review goes through an evaluation process before it actually gets printed in it. So it adds an extra level of accountability and fact checking that other sources do not have. But again, also that is not infallible. There are other things that go into play. Maybe as time goes by, the older articles may have become outdated. So just things to keep in mind. Of course, always look at the content. Content is king. Aside from that, you can also look at the publication date here. And here you can just drag it over. Let's just say I want to do just the last 10 years. So then anything older than 2010 would go away from my results list. Or you can just type over here. Now look at the types. Here right now, we told the database that we only want to see just the academic ones. But depending on your topic, maybe you could use a newspaper or you could use a magazine. So if you wanted to do that and you've already checked this box, just uncheck the scholarly peer-reviewed box. That way you see all of the different source types. And then now we could go over here to the different. So here's newspapers. You got 49 articles from newspapers, 84 articles from magazines, book review, 2 book reviews. Not for this class, no book reviews. For most scholarly work, you're not going to be using book reviews unless what you're doing is reviewing a book. So we're not doing that. In most classes, that is not a relevant type of source, but it could be for other assignments. So that's why it's still there, but most of the time, you're not going to be using this. Now, let's go by subject. You can click on this button and you can just narrow it down by specific subjects. And again, you could narrow it down by the publication type, the company, the language, geography. You could also do that. Let's just say California. Let's look and see. For some subjects, California would be a great place or a great limiter, but for others, it may not. And then as you're looking for your topic, there may not be enough articles that talk about violent video games in Los Angeles. So then you could then broaden it out, violent video games and California. Or you could broaden out to violent video games and the United States, or just get rid of the geography area if you're not getting the results that you want. So this is a very quick overview of using Academic Search Complete. There's way more to it than this. There's also the advanced search. Let's take a quick look at that. So from here, you could narrow down your results. You could select the different fields that you want to search, whether it's just by author, by title, the subject terms, depending on what it is that you want to do. Or you could add in, let me get rid of this. I'm going to move it over here. Let me get rid of violence. And I'm going to do then girls. So this is a great way to visually break up all of your keywords. And sometimes it's helpful to see it that way, but everything that you could do as far as your keywords, you could do it from that top screen by just using the word and or. See, they're different or not. These are the Boolean operators. And then again, the same limiters on the left side, whether it's full text, what I always recommend, and by date. For my class, it could range. But usually, 5 to 10 years might be a good selection on it. and try to use a lot of the scholarly peer-reviewed. Although I do want you to at least have 2 or 3 academic articles. You could also use websites, really good websites, some newspapers or magazine articles for this project. When you're in here, because every database is the same, but it could be different as well. So what I suggest is when you first get onto a database, before you start searching anything, explore what you see on the page. When I click on the new, look at the top bar, the top navigation bar, to see what options you have. Sometimes they have an internal dictionary or subject terms, or just become familiar with what you see up on the top. Many times also the help button is located either on the top or at the bottom. And those are just different tutorials on how to use the database if you want to do something more advanced with it. Then just find out, where is the search box? What are the different ways that I could limit my search right from the beginning? Because that will save me time in the long run. So before I start typing my search terms up here, I'm going to select the full text box. And if I just want to look at just scholarly peer reviewed, I'll again check the box right there. Publication, this is the title of the journal or magazine. Right now, I don't care about that. That's not relevant for our search or for most search that you will be doing, unless you have to look at a particular type, like the New England Journal of Medicine or something like that. But right now, you can just leave that blank. You can limit it to the number of pages. Right now, just leave that blank. References available. No, you don't need to do any of these stuff. Or publication type. This one is whether you want a book, newspaper, a primary source document, educational report. This is if you want to do something very specific. If you're in the nursing program and you're doing a nursing kind of research and you have to look at different things, there might be in some advanced databases different things that you could limit it to depending on what you're looking for. But for this one, just leave the publication type as all. And then just enter your search terms. Remember to use keywords. Stress and cardiovascular disease, for example, and women. Don't add full sentences, don't add full questions, just use your Boolean operators and then enter your search term and then click on search and then explore your search results. Right? Look at the title, look at the subject, pull up the 2 versions if you need them. For paraphrasing, the PDF version is best. Sorted the way that you want, whether it's by date or by relevance. Then use the left navigation to limit your search results. Either by subject. Maybe not. You don't have to worry about publication type. It's just the different countries, etc. Location. And make it work for you, right? Use the title, look at the subjects, and look at the little pop-up things. And those are great ways to use this tool, this database, to work for you. Let's this one. Soybean intake and other stuff that I can't pronounce. Right there, I'm gonna click on that. If it's great, if it'll work and help you find an answer to your research question after you look at it and you determine that it's relevant to you. Click on the citation tool and you can copy and paste and put it into your annotated bibliography. And remember to always email it to yourself. Okay, so if you have any questions on this, feel free to contact me. I'm going to be doing more of these types of videos throughout the week, and I'm going to do some live sessions as well. So this is a very lengthy demonstration of using Academic Search Complete. I hope you've enjoyed it and you find it useful and it helps you get started in your research. Thank you.